There are men who live in palaces but carry tombs within them, and there are voices that do not rise from the earth but fall from the heavens like thunder. I, Obatala, will tell you the story of such a man. His name was Adeyemi. He lived in Lagos. Not the Lagos of fishermen and prayers, but the Lagos of marble floors, mirrored skyscrapers, and money that spoke louder than conscience. Adeyemi was a man whom governors respected and elders envied. He owned ships that crossed oceans, lands that swallowed villages, and buildings that blocked out the sky. But none of that mattered to him like one thing: his daughter, Amira. She was born in softness, but lived in service. While Adeyemi dined with politicians, Amira sat with the poor. While he chased numbers on screens, she listened to the pain of children who had never been called by name. "Baba," she once said, "our ancestors didn't pray for us to have everything. They prayed for us to remember what matters." He would smile and pat her hand, but never listen. She was 23 when the world cracked open. It was a rainy Thursday. Amira had gone, as always, to visit a rural school she helped fund. She never returned. The driver was found unconscious on the road, the car abandoned. 2 days of silence, then 3. On the 4th morning, a farmer discovered her body beneath a banana tree, violated, beaten, and discarded like something shameful. Lagos held its breath. Adeyemi did not cry, not at first. He paid investigators, he hired mercenaries, he threatened politicians. But the silence remained. The killer was a shadow. The government moved slowly, as if the murder of a girl, even his daughter, were a forgettable statistic. That night, lightning struck the ancestral Iroko tree in Adeyemi's courtyard, a tree his grandmother had once said was sacred to Shango. It burned for hours, and in the flames, he heard a whisper. "Go to him." Adeyemi, the man who trusted no one but himself, packed gold and offerings. He took nothing but his driver and his rage and drove deep into the night, toward a place the city had forgotten. A sacred shrine of Shango awaited him. Shango's sacred ground was waiting, and so was justice. The shrine stood in silence, hidden between tall palms and earth that remembered the weight of ancient feet. It was not made of stone or gold, but of clay, sweat, and centuries. The air was thick with incense, the walls breathed with songs unsung. Adeyemi stepped out of the car. His agbada was spotless, his shoes untouched by dust. In his arms, he carried a heavy bronze bowl, filled with cowries, gold rings, bottles of imported liquor, and a folded check worth more than most villages had ever seen. An old woman greeted him at the gate. Her head was wrapped in white, her back bent not from weakness, but from reverence. "You come with your riches," she said, "but Shango weighs hearts, not metal." "I come for justice," Adeyemi replied. "My daughter was murdered. I want the killer." The woman nodded once and led him inside. Within the shrine, the drums began, slow at first, then faster. The floor shook, the ceiling seemed to bend. Flames danced in the corners of the room, their shadows long and untamed. Around him, daughters of the orisha began to spin. Their white dresses floated like clouds caught in a storm. Sweat glistened on their brows. Their eyes rolled back. One of them stumbled and froze. Her body snapped upright, her chest expanded, and when she spoke, the voice was no longer hers. It cracked like thunder. "You dare summon the King of Fire with coins in your hands?" Adeyemi dropped to his knees. "I offer everything, just give me justice. My daughter, she was innocent." So was the world before men carved borders through it. So were the children before greed taught them silence. The room darkened. Only the fire in the center remained, burning blue now, unnatural. "You want truth," said Shango through the trembling priestess, "but truth costs more than gold. Are you willing to pay with your pride?" Adeyemi nodded, slowly, reluctantly. 3 signs will be given. You will walk, you will listen, you will not command, you will learn, and if you reach the end, the storm will speak again." Then the priestess collapsed. The drumming stopped. Smoke filled the space. Time stood still. Adeyemi's hands were trembling. For the first time in decades, he had received an order and obeyed. At dawn, the old woman handed him a satchel made of goatskin. "In here, water for your journey," she said. "You will not know where the signs are, but they will know where you are." And so began Adeyemi's walk into the land of the Orisha, a man of empire, stripped to a man of purpose. The sun was cruel the day Adeyemi entered the village of Ogundele. Dust clung to his clothes. Children watched him with wide eyes, whispering behind makeshift fences. His car had broken down miles before, as if the machine itself had been commanded to halt. And so he walked, alone, blistered, angry. He had hoped for a revelation, a vision, something grand and immediate. Instead, there was only heat and silence. Until he saw her. She sat beneath a crooked baobab tree at the edge of the village. Her skin was folded like fabric left in the sun, her eyes clouded by time, and yet she turned her face toward him before he spoke a word. "You took long," she said in Yoruba, "but the dead don't mind waiting." "I don't know you," he replied, his voice brittle. "No," she said, a faint smile on her lips, "but the one who sent you does." She introduced herself as Mama Olani. Her voice was thin, but carried the weight of ages. She lived in a small clay hut with no door, no light, no companion, except for the body of her son, wrapped in a straw mat inside. "He died last night," she said plainly. "The spirit said I would not bury him alone." Adeyemi stepped back. "This is not my task." The old woman nodded slowly. "That's what the last man said. He left. Then the rains came and washed his name from the village memory." A dog barked in the distance. Birds circled above. Reluctantly, Adeyemi entered the hut. The smell of herbs and death greeted him. The son's body, long, thin, still, lay peacefully, hands on his chest, a beaded bracelet on his wrist. "I have gold," Adeyemi muttered. "I can hire someone." "But Shango didn't send your gold." With gritted teeth he carried the body. He dug the grave. He broke the dry earth with blistered hands. The villagers gathered slowly, silently. One by one they approached the grave and laid small items beside the body. A handmade toy, a folded drawing, a worn shoe. "Who was he?" Adeyemi asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "A gardener," someone said. "A storyteller," said another. "Protector of the orphans," whispered a third. Adeyemi stood still. Mama Olani's son had spent his life feeding, clothing, and teaching the village's abandoned children. He had no wealth, but he had legacy. When the grave was closed, the villagers sang. Not a funeral dirge, but a hymn of gratitude. That night, Adeyemi sat by the fire with Mama Olani. She offered him broth made of yam and pepper leaf. "Why did you never leave this place?" he asked. She sipped slowly. "Because love never asked me to." Before sleeping, Adeyemi saw a carving near the fire, worn by time, but unmistakable. Twin axes, Shango's symbol. "He followed Shango?" Adeyemi asked. "No," she said. "He became like him." Adeyemi laid on a mat that smelled of smoke and clay. But he didn't sleep. His mind was burning. He had come for vengeance, but received a funeral. He had offered gold, but was given grief. And yet, something inside him shifted. He thought of Amira, how she had lived like this man, how he had dismissed her efforts as childish charity. Maybe she hadn't been reaching down to help others. Maybe she had been climbing towards something he had never understood. The stars blinked above. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled softly. The first sign had spoken, and the storm was not done. The next morning, Adeyemi left Ogundel at first light. The villagers offered him gifts, cassava bread, dried fish, a hand-woven bracelet, but he refused. Not out of pride, but confusion. He had not come to receive. He had come to demand, and yet the first sign had humbled him. He walked for hours through sun-scorched paths, guided only by instinct and the satchel of water the priestess had given him. No clear direction, no vision, only the memory of Shango's voice echoing in his ears. 3 signs: walk, learn, listen. By midday, the sky had changed. The clouds had gathered in tight circles, bruised and heavy. The wind began to whistle through the trees. A stillness fell over the road, not peaceful but tense. The kind of silence that came before something broke. Then, in the distance, a single thatched roof house stood alone beside a crooked tree. A small fire burned outside, contained within stones. No sign of life. As Adeyemi approached, a deafening crack tore through the sky. Lightning. The bolt struck the tree. No, the house. In an instant, flames exploded from the roof. The dry grass ignited like paper. Smoke spiraled upward, and from the doorway burst a child, barefoot, trembling, no older than 6. The boy fell on the path, coughing. Without thinking, Adeyemi ran. He scooped the boy into his arms and pulled him away from the burning house just as the flames reached the walls. The boy clung to him, fists tight around Adeyemi's shirt. He did not speak. He did not cry, only shook. People from nearby huts began to arrive, drawn by the smoke. An elder approached, his face weathered like the bark of an old tree. "I know this child," the man said. "He cannot speak, never has. He was born during thunder. Some say he's marked." Adeyemi placed the boy on a woven mat under a palm tree and tried to calm him. The boy reached out, took a piece of charcoal from the ground, and drew in the dirt. 2 axes, crossed. The symbol of Shango. Adeyemi froze. "Does he do that often?" he asked. The elder shook his head. "Never seen it before." A woman approached, laying a damp cloth on the boy's forehead. "He was found as a baby during a storm, left by the river. Some say the orisha spared him." Later that evening, they took the boy to a small babalawo, a priest who spoke softly and listened deeply. The old man watched the child, then turned to Adeyemi. "You didn't just find this boy, you were brought to him." "What do you mean?" "Shango marked this child with fire so he could cross your path. He has no words, but his silence is sacred." Adeyemi sat back, breath heavy. He stared at the boy, who now rested under a raffia mat, eyes half closed, still clutching the twin axe drawing he had made in the dirt. A second sign, that much was clear. But why this boy? He thought of his own daughter again. The way she had insisted on helping those the world had discarded. Had she seen something in them that he had been blind to? The storm had taken her, but this child had been spared. That night, thunder rolled once more in the distance, and as Adeyemi lay awake, staring at the sky, he whispered something he had never said before. "I don't understand, Shango, but I'm still listening." And far above, in clouds lit by silent lightning, something old and powerful stirred. The storm was leading him, but the truth, that still waited ahead. 3 days passed. Adeyemi had remained in the village where the fire had spoken. The boy, now known to him only as Omo Ina, child of fire, stayed near his side, silent, watchful, trusting. But something within Adeyemi had changed. He no longer asked when the next sign would come. He no longer looked at his watch or counted the steps. He simply walked and waited and listened. On the 4th morning, he returned to Lagos. The city felt louder now, harsher. The buildings that once made him proud now cast shadows he had never noticed. The people in their pressed suits looked like ghosts chasing invisible things. He entered his mansion, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, the smell of imported leather, and it all felt hollow. He walked through Amira's room. Nothing had changed. Her books were still on the shelf, her earrings still on the dresser, her presents gone, but everywhere. Then the bell rang. It was rare for someone to come unannounced. The security gate was tightly controlled. But when he looked through the window, he saw a man he recognized, thin, nervous, sweating despite the cool air. It was Ibrahim, one of the junior assistants from his private security firm. He had worked for Adeyemi for years, mostly in silence, always obedient. The moment Adeyemi opened the door, Ibrahim fell to his knees. "Please," he said, voice cracking. "I need to speak before I lose my mind." Adeyemi stiffened. "Speak." Ibrahim trembled. "It wasn't strangers who took Amira. It was us." Time stopped. "What did you say?" "I didn't touch her," he cried. "I swear, but I knew what Chief Olatunji had done. I heard them fighting. She had discovered the illegal shipments, the bribes, the children being used to carry things. She threatened to expose him." Adeyemi staggered back, his face pale. "She was going to report him," Ibrahim continued, "to you, but he couldn't risk it. He followed her that day, killed the driver, took her, buried her near the village line." "Gul, why didn't you come forward?" Adeyemi's voice was shaking with fury. "I had dreams," Ibrahim whispered, "of fire, of thunder. Every night I hear her voice and a storm outside my window. I can't sleep. I see her eyes, and a voice keeps saying, 'Tell the truth or be burned in silence.'" Adeyemi felt his knees buckle. He grabbed the wall to steady himself. The third sign had come, not in fire, not in vision, but in truth, raw, unbearable. His most trusted man had betrayed him. His daughter had died trying to protect others, and he had been too blind, too busy chasing contracts and comfort to see the war inside his own house. He called the police. He made the man confess in front of them. He demanded the arrest of Olatunji. And then Adeyemi wept, not the tears of sorrow, but of shame. He went into Amira's room and knelt by her bed. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I see now. You were the one following the orishas. You were the storm walking softly among us." That night, the rain returned to Lagos. Thunder cracked the sky, but Adeyemi no longer feared it. He stood at the window, closed his eyes and said, "Shango, I have seen the three signs. I have walked, listened, and paid with my pride. If justice lives in your fire, I'm ready to face it." And far above, the clouds answered, not with words, but with silence. The kind of silence that comes after something has been broken open. He returned barefoot. No convoy, no guards. No golden rings clinking against each other, only the man who had once ruled through power, now guided by grief. The journey back to the Torero took a full day, but Adeyemi didn't measure it in hours, only in weight. The weight of truth, the weight of shame, the weight of what he had finally begun to understand. The shrine looked the same as before, but he did not. The drums began as he stepped inside, not loud, not triumphant, a quiet thunder, like distant echoes of something ancient preparing to descend. The same priestess who had spoken with Shango's voice the first time now stood silently at the center, her face calm. A fire had been lit in the middle of the room, not bright, just enough to cast shadows of spirits on the walls. Adeyemi knelt, not because it was expected, but because it was the only posture left for a man who had seen the limits of himself. "I have walked," he said. "I have buried the innocent. I have held a child marked by lightning. I have heard the truth tear through the silence I once paid to protect." He looked up. "If justice is still yours to give, I am ready." The priestess began to sway. Her fingers twitched. Her breath came in short gasps. Then her body stiffened and her arms rose as if drawn by invisible strings. And Shango came. The air thickened. The flames turned blue again. The walls moaned with wind. "You came to me for vengeance," said the voice, rumbling through the air like a storm trapped in human lungs. But what did you learn? Adeyemi lowered his eyes. That the guilty don't always hide in darkness. Sometimes they dine at our tables. And what is justice? He swallowed. Not punishment, but truth and transformation. The fire flared. You speak well now, but are you ready to lose what you were, to become what you must? I already have, he whispered. Silence. Then Shango spoke once more, softer now, almost as if the thunder was tired. Then rise, Adeyemi. The storm has passed, but the fire it lit must not die. The priestess collapsed gently. The drums faded. The air cleared. Adeyemi stood. He was no longer the man who had arrived with gold in his fists. He was the man who had carried a body, rescued a child, and buried his illusions. Months passed. The newspapers covered the arrest of Olatunji. There were trials, testimonies, reforms. But Adeyemi no longer gave interviews or attended board meetings. He sold his properties, he dissolved his private security company, and he turned his mansion into a home for the forgotten. Casa de Amira, they called it, a sanctuary for children abandoned by the city's hunger, a school, a shelter, a place where stories were told, not of profit, but of purpose. Omo Ina, the boy of the fire, became his adopted son. He still didn't speak, but his drawings filled the walls of the house, symbols of orishas, scenes of storms, and sometimes a woman with a gentle smile walking through fire unharmed. Adeyemi taught the children about dignity, about courage, and about the voice of thunder that never forgets. Every year, on the day Amira was taken, he walked barefoot to the shrine of Shango, not to ask for anything, but to give thanks. And as he stood beneath the same tree once struck by lightning, he whispered to the sky, "Thank you for not giving me what I wanted, but for giving me what I needed." There are fires that destroy, and fires that purify. There are storms that break homes, and storms that awaken souls. Shango is not only the god of thunder, he is the god of truth. And truth, children, does not come softly. It strikes, it burns, it transforms. Adeyemi's wealth once protected his pride, but it was the fire that saved his soul. So when you hear thunder at night, do not fear it. Maybe it is not anger, maybe it is justice, whispering that it is still watching. I am Obatala, and this was a story born from fire.